Jimmie Rodgers was the first star of country music, big record seller. This whole hit record business thing didn't exist back then. Starts going, occasionally there's a hit, Preacher and the Bear by Arthur Collin. It goes back to, I think, 1905, and was redone and redone and redone and redone over the years. But the idea of charts and all that, none of that stuff existed. None of it, no matter what that guy at Billboard is claiming to push. Look for Tim Brooks' critique of whatever the top hits of before 1930. It's 1890 to 1930, and he gives the chart numbers that don't exist. It's unbelievable. It makes them up, and he refers to like magazines at the time that he's probably never seen, but we've seen those. We've looked through those, and especially Tim Brooks. He's one of my favorite academic people. It's a place to hide out if you're interested in something like that, and eventually it'll get to be a respectable profession. Elijah Wald is another guy I like. Anyway, Jimmie Rodgers, the singing brakeman, he had been a train working on trains. And I have no doubt in my mind that he had heard Emmett Miller. Emmett Miller recorded before Jimmie Rodgers and also played all over the South. So we'll be talking about Emmett Miller down the line, but he's a very, very extremely important guy in American music. But Jimmie Rodgers had big selling records. Big records. He also had rare records, too. And then there's also the ones that he made in the Depression that didn't sell much because you had a choice of buying maybe 20, 25 78s or a radio and have music forever and ever, and everybody went for the radio. So even the hits are usually fairly scarce in that period. Jimmie Rodgers, what can I say? This is the first guy inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame, as if that means much, but, it was a good choice, and he's the first male country singing star. And people would go in and buy to the store. There would be a store that sold whatever you wanted, cloth, and it's a general store, food and whatever, and they would buy their stuff and then get the latest Jimmie Rodgers record. Also, in the 20s, when I found stashes of blues and jazz, especially blues in the 20s, there's a Jimmie Rodgers record in there. Black people would actually lay their money down for this guy. And in collecting records out there, I mean, literally, this has happened to me so many times. You hear this, a family, a black family usually, then there's records from the 20s, and it's mostly black music, but there might be something else. There might be a white jazz band, and then there's the Jimmie Rodgers record, That happens over and over and over. With the era of the late 40s and 50s blues records, who do we find? Hank Williams. The black people would put their money down for some of these white artists, and Jimmie was one of them. Late 20s to 1933 when he died of the old TB.